Angela Moscaritolo, a reporter at SC Magazine, and I'm here today with Peter Galvin, CMO of Proofpoint. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Angela. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for
having
joining
me.
us. Today we're going to be talking about data loss threats on social networking sites. So I was talking to the CEO of a very small company with only 4 people the other day, and he said that about 2 years ago they started really embracing social networking sites to use for marketing and to communicate with customers, but with that there was a huge loss of control, he felt, and all of a sudden he started thinking about employee information and company information possibly being exposed online. Do you hear a lot of concerns like this?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of concern about overall data loss and data protection. And I think especially with social media sites where people have access to information and then can place that information on those sites. And I think one of the issues that companies have to face is what are the policies for actually using those social media sites by their employees in the organization? And then also not only teaching the employees about that, but also what are the technologies that you can put in place to prevent confidential information from going onto those sites. And so, many of the companies that we deal with are today looking at allowing their employees to go on those sites, but making sure that they put in the proper controls to be able to look at the data to prevent confidential information from getting on those sites.
So a lot of the organizations you speak to are understanding the value that sites like Facebook can bring, but just want to control it. They're not outright blocking them.
Well, I think many regulated organizations, so companies, especially in financial services institutions or healthcare institutions, need to put in policies in place before they're allowing their employees on those sites. So I think it depends on the regulated nature of those industries, but I think there's two schools of camp today. One is that many corporations are just locking down those sites. They're locking down not only just social media sites, but any sites you think of, even like greeting card sites. They're preventing their users from getting to, because even on a greeting card, you can put what could be considered confidential information on that greeting card site and deliver that to a prospective person. And so I think that has been a way that IT has dealt with the problem in some of the regulated industries. I think that is changing. I think that's changing because you've got more people using social media and using that for business. You've got new sets of employees that are coming online that are the next generation employees that are used to using those types of social media sites to be able to communicate with what will be their customers in the future. And I think that the issue for IT today is to figure out how do they allow their customers to use those sites, or their employees to use those sites, but make sure that they have the right security and compliance controls so they can meet the regulations, they can secure the environment, but they can allow for the productivity enhancements that you would get out of those social media sites.
And in terms of the data loss risks of social media, what are they saying that they're most concerned about? Is it inadvertent leakages, or the risk of an employee getting infected with malware through the social networking site? What is it specifically?
I think most of it is the leakage of confidential information, and it's really inadvertent. I think 99% of employees are trying to do good by the company, and so that's why whenever you look at social media sites or any activity that employees do, it's good to have, what are the policies that you have in place to be able to make sure that employees understand that, hey, this information is actually confidential and needs to be treated in a certain way. And so from our perspective and the customers that we deal with, it's really about being able to put the right policies in place and educate their employees about what data is confidential and what they need to use. They're also, I think that because if you look at financial services and healthcare and pharmaceutical industries, where they're much more regulated industries, there's much more tighter restrictions about what information is confidential and making sure that they're protecting that information. So if it's credit card data, social security numbers, bank routing numbers, they want to make sure that that information is protected and not inadvertently put on a social media site, or put in email for that matter, or any other kind of electronic communications.
So putting the policies in place and then looking at technologies that could help you with this issue. Can you kind of give us any other best practices or expand upon those ideas?
Yeah, well, some of our customers use technologies that actually look at any kind of email that goes through and can actually scan that for social security numbers, or can scan it for bank routing numbers or disease codes, for example. Even for social media sites, they have technology that can look at any kind of HTTP connection and the content that's in that connection. And then through a policy that you might have within one of those devices that our customer would have, they would create a policy that would say, well, let's block all of that content that has that kind of confidential information in it. They also have different practices. So one of the issues about training employees that's important is that in those technologies as well, our customers use a self-remediation capability where if, for example, their employee does send an email out, they can look at that email can be scanned and that email can be returned to that customer to see if and tell that employee that potentially this is a violation of some kind of confidentiality, and have that employee actually self-remediate. So they can say, no, I looked at that email again, it's good, and I'll actually send it out, or let me reframe that email so that it meets our policies.
All right, so something like that is actually better than just telling them not to do something, because it'll catch it and then it'll allow the employee, I guess, to learn what they've done wrong.
And it enforces that policy. I think other ways that customers are using technology is actually starting to use encryption technologies to actually encrypt the communication that's going between, for example, a doctor and patient. And so where there is confidential information that you need to share, and in the case maybe doctor and patient or financial professional with their clients, they can actually encrypt that communication. And so many of our customers use encrypted email as a way of being able to have that conversation and also include confidential information in that electronic conversation that they're having.
Okay. And you talked a little bit about email as being another big major threat vector for data loss. What are some of the others?
So I think it's really email. It's any kind of web activity that you would have. So social media sites, greeting card sites. If you think about any site where you actually can put information, even blogging and those types of capabilities, where companies need to have policies in place, because everybody in organizations are now starting to be part of the marketing department or the sales department and doing electronic communication. And so anywhere that you have the opportunity to do electronic conversations, you need to make sure that those employees understand the issues around confidentiality and the importance about private information to prevent that data leakage.
Okay. Peter, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Angela. Appreciate it.
Thanks to you for watching. Have a great day.